Here's a quick little project that you might like to do to show off a main focal bead for a pendant. I'm using 0.8 of a millimeter wire, that's 20 gauge, and here I have a nice amethyst, in fact, but you just can use it with any bead that has a drilled hole that is not too small. And you start off by making a link at either end, so a link at one end with your round nose pliers, and then cut the wire off the spool and create a link on the opposite side. Don't make these links too small because you're going to feed lengths of wire through them. So you can see I'm making them quite large and roundish. So now you want those two links to be on the same plane, running on the same plane. So make sure that they sit opposite each other. And now for the frilly surrounding wire, I'm going to roughly count about 5 times the length of my bead, but if you want a more frilly outer frame, you can cut more. You'll see the more you do this, how much wire you like to do, how much wire you like to use. So start off by making a little hook at the very, very end, and that can be used to hook into that top link. And you want to then close that little hook up so that it's secured and it can't fall off. So once that's connected, then we're going to use the end of the wire to thread. So you've got to keep those circles sort of running in the same direction, as I said, the same plane, and then you start feeding the wire through the top link and the base link, but never going over the top of the bead. Always keep a little bit of a space around the side of the bead, sort of like a halo. Just keep a little bit of a gap. Don't have too much because then the bead is just going to sort of float in the middle. But you'll see every time you do this, it will look different. So I've now done 2 surrounds, and now I'm going to make the top suspension link on my pendant. So I've bent, not the very end of the wire, but I've just made a curl, and then I'm going to push the end through and pull it to create a top suspension link. It doesn't really matter how you do this. You could do a wrap loop, you can do anything at the top. It's just you need something to hang it from. So there's my link. And with the leftover wire, instead of wrapping it round the base of that link, I'm going to create a little spiral with it. I always find that a decorative spiral just adds another little detail to the finished piece. So roll that around and bring it to the front of the piece, and then just squash it down just under the top link. So I'm going to give that now a little bit of a work hardening. So get your steel block and your hammer, and be very careful obviously not to hit the bead. Just go to the very, very tip, rounded tip of the link and hammer that so that's nice and firm and it's not going to bend. So now you're ready to put the little kinks or make the frilly part of the frame. So I would do it actually sitting, I put my bead on the mat and then do these little tweaks or twists into the wire. I'm going to hold it and show you because it'd be easier for you to see it if I just hold it in my hand, but it is actually easier to do on the mat. So you can see I'm just putting my pliers in and twisting the wire, and I've got these 2 wires, so I'm going to go to one side and then have a look at it and then go to the other side, and I'm trying to keep the wire from going over the top of the bead surface so that it stays as a frame. That might move like it's done with me, move your top spiral. So you'll have to do quite a few little adjustments. And now just hammer those little poking out bits around the frame. And this is going to work harden and temper and, make that structure much more solid so it won't misshape. So if you find at this stage you want to add a few extra tweaks, by all means, this is when you're sort of honing, the finished piece, and you might have to lift up one of the frames to get to the little outer bit of that kink. So you're putting it on the edge of your block every time, and be careful you don't hit the bead, obviously, otherwise you smash it to smithereens. So just go around and keep adjusting and keep hammering any of the outer protrusions, and that's it really. So you can see that it's a very fun way, very organic sort of frame, but it does make a very simple bead say look at me, especially when it's just that and you're just putting it on a cord or a chain and you don't want a sort of beaded necklace with it, you don't want anything fancy, it's just about that one focal bead and the colour. And there you have it on this one. And really it works for any shape bead. So let me just quickly illustrate that again with another bead. But before I do that, I'm just going to make a bail. So something like this, you could just cut about 6 inches and fold it in half. You've probably seen me do these bails before. So you've doubled up the wire and got it running parallel. Then take your round nose pliers at the doubled end and create a circle. So there's your circle in the doubled end of the wire. Then place your round nose pliers next to that circle and bend it again in the same direction. And there's your loop. And then go to the opposite end and make sure that the ends are the same length. So just trim anything at this stage. If one end is slightly longer, just trim it. And then you're going to create spirals on each side curling outwards. So tiny little circle with the tips of your round nose pliers on each side of the wire curling outwards away from each other. Grip that tightly in your flat nose pliers and curl the wire around. I'm leaving a little bit of a gap on this spiral, and then I bring it in. So I work on each side in tangent so that I can make sure that they look roughly the same. And now I've brought the wire in so it's touching itself, and I'll keep going, spiraling it up until it's just under the loop or the hook that I made earlier, the doubled hook that I made earlier. So you want them sitting together, and then just very gently hammer the outer ends and the piece so that it's work hardened, because I'm using soft wire all the way through. Again, it's 0.8, and this is going to be a lovely bail that you can use to suspend. So you're going to open that first doubled link that you made, just make a little gap in it so that you can feed the suspension link of your bead, and then just close that up, and then the gap above you can thread your cord, your chain, your ribbon, whatever you're going to suspend it from, and it's as simple as that. So just make sure, I've actually going to just spiral those up just slightly because I've got that spiral at the top, and then that will show it off nicely. So there you go. That's one down. And just to show you that it also works with any shape, here's a sort of big nugget, that bead that I've got. And again, I'm going to make, as you know, you saw me do this before, I'm going to make 2 reasonable size links on each side, and I want them to sit on the same plane. And so I just twist them, and this time I'm going to use a bit more wire to show you how more of a sort of frilly frame can be made. So again, little hook that in, connect it, secure it, make sure it's held, and then you're going to feed the wire from one end, so from the top and then to the base, and just go around like a halo, leaving a little gap around the bead. So keep feeding the wire around and around. So I've got a lot more wire this time because I wanted to show you, if you have more wire, what it will look like. Also, because this is a chunkier bead, I thought it might look better with more wire. So again, I'm going to make the top link, make a loop, feed the end of the wire through the top of the bead link and sort of pull it through. I've got rather a lot of wire, which makes it a bit difficult because I don't want to kink it and I don't want to over manipulate it, so it's making it a bit difficult. But if you have too much wire, you can always cut it off. And just make sure you've got a nice big top link. Now for this one, I think I'm going to show you how you can just leave it as a top link. So you can make that top link and then hold it where you've made it and then wrap the wire around the base of the link. That's another way of doing it. So it just keeps it more simple without, you don't need a bail. You just can sort of wrap it around, and then with the remaining projecting wire you can create a little tight spiral that can sit at the very top of the bead, creating a nice little decorative detail, but it also hides all those wraps underneath. And I'm just going to give that a work hardening at the very, very rounded end of my link to make sure it's firm. Now I'm going to turn that at right angles to the bead, to the top of the bead and the frame, because I want to feed my ribbon or my cord or my chain straight into that. I'm not making a bail, that is my suspension link. And then we want to make the frame a bit more exciting with little tweaks and twists, and so go around all the frame. This time you've got more wire, so just lots of little twists and tweaks until you're satisfied. And the more you do, obviously the frillier the outer frame is going to look. So I'm going to let you experiment with this and see, if you like it with less wire or more wire. As I say, it works with a round bead, it works with any shape bead. You're just going around the framework and producing this frilly outer frame so that it stands out. And again, I'm going to hammer just the projecting bits of the wire. Very careful not to hammer one wire into another wire underneath, because that will weaken it. So only where it projects, or you can lift it up and get to it. Don't hammer one wire on top of another wire, because you'll find that will make it very fragile and weak. So go around and you'll see, there we have it. That's on a big chunky nugget, and that will go beautifully with a bit of suede or cord. So do experiment with this, and you can make some lovely pendants for friends, family, or for your outfits. You can also dangle something from the base, and here you have it. You can see how that could look. So thank you for watching.